Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name's Sean and today I want to talk about a method for attacking fat loss in a way that I've found to be extremely effective over the years. If you've ever wanted to lean up really quickly, play catch up on a contest prep, or simply turn up the dial on your fat loss efforts, then you might find this video useful. Now, today's content might be overly detailed or a little bit advanced for some. So again, it's not going to be a recommendation video, but I'm just sharing my experience of something that I've tried over the last 10 years with repeated success. And I thought that maybe it could be helpful for you to try it too. Now you can find a breakdown of everything I talk about today in my linked Medium articles for future reference. So there's no need to stop or pause the video. Now, while there's an endless array of approaches when it comes to losing body fat, I personally have no patience for long, drawn-out conventional methods of dieting. Locking myself away from life while I ever weigh half a pound of fat loss per week for 20+ weeks isn't my idea of time well invested. Slow and steady doesn't always win the race, especially when it comes to dieting, and particularly when it comes to protecting hard-won muscle and strength. I've found that short, hard bursts of intensity work just as well for dieting as they do for my training. And at the end of the day, this is bodybuilding, not body shredding. So I'd rather spend more time growing and gaining than dieting for half the year. I recently watched an interview with social media influencer Lindner, who related his secret to getting extra lean in short periods of time. Now, I'm not talking about steroids or genetics, I'm talking about the other secret. And Lindner believed in attacking fat loss with short bouts of low calories, adding in a lot of cardio for 2 weeks, and then adjusting his calories upwards before cycling back to low calories, depending on how much fat he had to lose.
So I had my protocol, like how to get in shape like crazy, right? So I have this hardcore protocol, which I would do maybe 2,000 calories, twice a day cardio and all that, and fuck me up and just push it. And within like 10 days, I can do magic, man. I can look like a different person.
And it's not just Joe. Fellow Aussie Eugene related his thoughts on rapid fat loss approaches.
So I've been running a pretty aggressive fat loss diet over the past couple of weeks that has me eating around 1,000 to 1,200 calories each day. More about why I prefer aggressive diets like this instead of slow, steady diets over longer periods of time.
Now, these anecdotes are basically Lyle McDonald's time-tested Ultimate Diet 2.0 in an overly simplified nutshell. Lyle's book is just a more nuanced, researched, and precision-engineered template of Lindner's and Eugene's personal experiences. The premise behind Lyle's diet is the inevitable reality that the leaner you get, the harder fat loss becomes. Anyone who's done a long diet realizes the painful diminishing returns once all the initial easy weight losses dry up. Your body will fight you and fight you hard to protect you from reaching those coveted lower body fat percentages. And for every extra percentage of fat loss, you've got to apply even more effort on ever decreasing amounts of food for less noticeable results. Complicating things further, the tightrope walk of not sacrificing hard-won muscle and strength becomes its own precarious daily balancing act. And because your body loves you enough to want to keep you alive and avoid starvation, it will exert its own form of hormonal hatred to block your forced, simulated starvation dieting attempts. So a diet that combines rapid fat loss with maximum muscle retention is basically the holy grail of dieting. And in my opinion and experience, calorie cycling using a carnivore approach with the addition of a weekly carb up overturns that conventional paradigm that fat loss needs to be slow in order to minimize strength and muscle loss. Now, I first ran Lyle McDonald's Ultimate Diet 2.0 almost 10 years ago when I was prepping for my first natural bodybuilding show. And I obtained very decent levels of leanness with no coach, no cardio, and no pharmaceuticals to assist. I used similar principles when competing assisted, cycling low calorie days with large weekly refeeds right up until the show day to achieve extra dry levels of conditioning. Now, for that show, I had over 30 pounds to lose to fit into the weight class of classic physique. So any special sports supplements were limited to around 500 milligrams of testosterone, and then I dropped down to 250 milligrams just to support some muscle retention. So basically, I've run this diet both ways, and it's worked well for both Natty and Natty on the day approaches. But this time around, I wanted to try using a carnivore version while still keeping that 24-hour weekend carb up refeed, so combining the best of both worlds. It's really the dietary equivalent of having both your steak and your cake and getting to eat both of them too. Now, I know that Lyle would call me a even considering carnivore, and he's probably right. But there's a few conditions before considering this type of dietary approach. If you're a male, you should be 15% body fat or under, and for females, no more than 22% body fat. For those above this range, Lyle sets out his equally effective plan in his Rapid Fat Loss book. Now you might be saying, why bother with such a convoluted setup when bros from the dawn of time have been getting ripped on the standard prescription of high protein, low to moderate fat, low to moderate carbohydrates, weight training and aerobics? In his book, Lyle states from the outset that frankly, he has no problem with the standard advice as long as it's producing results. He actually prefers simpler approaches as long as they work. And in many people who frequently have genetic advantages that they might not even be aware of, they work just fine. The reality is that only a small portion of those people who try the standard advice actually achieve their goals. So that tells me Lyle says that the standard advice or not isn't really that effective. So to set up the diet, I strongly encourage those interested to buy Lyle's book, as it's a short read but tremendously informative. It's really accessible to many people, especially how he breaks down the science behind it, and I guarantee you that it's a book that you'll return to many times. The basic outline is as follows. You multiply your body weight by 14 to 16 to calculate your maintenance calories. You cut maintenance by 50%, but don't go below 1200 calories. Add cardio in if 50% of your maintenance is lower. Now Lyle sets carbs at 20% of his daily calories, protein at 1 to 1.5 grams per pound, with the remaining as fat, aiming for between 3 and 4 meals per day. Now for the low calorie days, I ate nothing but beef and organ meats with a few whole eggs in the evening. If you're new to this type of diet, I highly recommend adding in a generous amount of salt to your food in order to minimize any diarrhea or electrolyte loss, and preserve that precious workout pump as much as possible. So my daily meals for days 1 through to 4 and 7 are as follows. For meal 1, I'll have 6 ounces of lean beef mince with an ounce of liver and an ounce of kidney. Meal 2, I'll repeat that with the same amounts of food again. For meal 3, I'll bump it up slightly to 8 ounces of lean beef mince with an ounce of liver and an ounce of lamb heart. And for meal 4, I'll have 4 whole eggs. That brings me to 1287 calories in total, 189 grams of which is protein, 49 grams of fat, and carbs at 0 or minimal. Now the diet prescribes 2 whole body depletion workouts to deplete your muscle glycogen stores, a rest day from weights with optional cardio, a half day of low calorie eating followed by a full body tension workout, and then the glorious 24 to 30 hour carb up and a full body power workout the day after the refeed.
For days 1 and 2, you'll diet hard while using whole body, high rep, minimal rest workouts to deplete muscle glycogen stores along with any will to live. Weights are 60% of 1 RM with 30 seconds to 1 minute rest between sets. Aim for 10 sets per muscle group. You can split upper and lower body up over 2 days, which is what I did. Day 3 is a rest day from weights, but cardio can be performed if needed. I chose to hit 10,000 steps per day, increasing that by 2,000 steps every day each successive week.
Lyle recommends doing the carb up maybe on day 4, but he does provide the option of taking an additional low calorie day so that you can have your carb up on the weekend. I ran the extra low day as I didn't want to be in a carb coma at work, sneaking in food every 2 hours. A Saturday carb up gave me the option of making it a social occasion, the chance to go out for a nice dinner somewhere if need be. Now with day 5, you're going to split the day in 2, eating only 75% of your low day calories and doing some cardio if you want to. So basically half the day is low calorie eating. In the second part of the day, the program includes a tension workout to prime the body for the upcoming carb refeed.
This tension workout is a full body workout, but it's more aligned to conventional hypertrophy, programming with weights in the 6 to 12 rep range at 75% of one's RM. Perform 2 to 4 sets per body part, but don't go to failure and perform around 20 sets total.
After this tension workout on day 5 begins the post-workout carbohydrate load. So you start your 24-hour carb up eating anywhere between 14 and 16 grams of carbs per pound of lean body weight. You keep your protein at 1 gram per pound and minimal fats of no more than 50 grams total. And although it's not an eat everything you want pig out fest, you do get to indulge the pleasure of a high calorie day without derailing 4 days of hard-won fat loss. Lyle recommends aiming for the first part of the carb up to include some sucrose, no more than 100 grams, and some fructose, but no more than 50 grams. Starchy carbs should make up the majority of your calorie intake. Make sure to drink plenty of water and try to minimize any stimulant use during this carb up. Day 7 is the power workout, which aims for between 3 and 6 sets per muscle group for around 3 to 6 reps. Lyle recommends eating at maintenance today, but if you're on a cut, you should probably drop your calories by 10 to 20% below maintenance. I ate a small amount of carbs pre and post workout for what's supposed to be the toughest of the weekly workouts. I ate around 30 grams each side of the workout, and then I returned immediately back to the carnivore for the rest of day 7. One of the biggest tips that I can give you for the low calorie days is to try and backload your calories by fasting for as long as possible. So instead of spreading out your small meals throughout the day, it's much easier mentally and physically to keep busy and productive and fast until around midday, eating within a 6-hour feeding window. Keep busy so that you're not thinking about food. The big reason I skip the tiny amounts of carbs that Lyle allocates to the depletion days is that carbs are a trigger food for me. Some people like myself fall into that all or nothing mindset that who can eat just one cookie? I've got to eat the whole box. Who can eat just one chocolate? I've got to eat the whole bar. I'd rather eat 0 carbs to avoid any temptation and instead eat fat and protein, which is much more satiating. And despite the challenges of the low calorie days, it's mentally easier to commit to the plan knowing that there's a high calorie, high carb refeed just a few days away. Another huge takeaway that I learned using a carnivore approach to low calorie dieting is that it's the kind of food that greatly influences your hunger cravings. Is it any wonder that conventional bodybuilding diets of chicken breast, white fish and broccoli leaves bodybuilders literally climbing the walls out of sheer hunger and starvation? It's literally a menu void of decent taste and nutrients. But on the other hand, beef, eggs and organ meats provide better satiation, taste and micronutrients, so I never actually felt the depths of extreme hunger like I normally would on such poverty calories. Training on the diet can be a struggle at first due to the shock of the sudden calorie drop and the fact that depletion workouts can be hellish. The clue is literally in the name. They're designed to deplete you. Hitting 10 sets per body part with minimal rest periods is a test of sheer fortitude. To combat this, I train earlier in the morning and include a few short walks throughout the day to get my minimum 10,000 or whatever steps. And at first I used to do the depletion workouts fasted, but I swapped out some food for some sardines pre-workout, which were literally the best 130 calories I've ever invested in. The diet doesn't require a lot of cardio and it's optional for most. However, walking is the best thing that you can do to ward off temporary hunger, which will pass if your mind and body are distracted by physical activity. If nothing else, walking is meditative. It takes your mind off any food and you can do it socially and it stimulates feel-good endorphins. Prior to day 5's tension workout, I use half a scoop of protein powder, which is about 15 grams of hydrolyzed collagen, and 30 grams of sugar-free, fast and long-acting carbs, which provided me a tremendous boost to the intensity I was able to apply that workout. I was surprised that just a small amount of carbs after 4 days of calorie depletion felt like all of the lights in my mind and body suddenly being turned on, and this strange feeling of euphoric dopamine channeling its way through my body. Now, typically, I don't perform well after a carb binge. I feel sluggish and inflamed, and my phantom aches and pains mysteriously return. So I thought that the weekend power workout was going to suck, but I have to honestly say they were some of the best workouts that I've had in a long time. For example, like heavy weights just felt light and I had endless endurance energy for the entire workout. Overall, the first week I lost 3 kilos at the end of the low calorie phase and I put a kilo on during the carb up. I also checked my blood work after that first week, just as a general checkup. My testosterone, TSH and cholesterol numbers were in the red, which based on my history was to be expected. My free testosterone and SHBG were fine, but it was the first time testing my growth hormone and IGF-1, which were on the really low side. My testosterone levels, which had been low for over 25 years, so I don't think that 1 week of dieting is enough to impact them so hard. What I am surprised with is that I could maintain any strength or muscle with my test growth hormone and IGF-1 levels being so low. Metabolically though, things look really healthy with low resting glucose levels and minimal C-reactive protein, which is an effective marker for systemic inflammation. So what does a carb up look like exactly? At first glance, the high amount of carbs that McDonald's UD 2.0 has you consuming during the carb up seems ridiculously inconsumable. I calculated my carb up numbers at first to be in the range of 1400 grams, but I was surprised how quickly I ate that amount well before the 24-hour period ended, and I was still hungry for more. Sugar-free cereal like Rice Krispies, sweet potato and pasta calories add up quickly, and unlike meat and eggs, there's very little satiation to be had from a carb-dominant menu. McDonald's deliberately lowers fat and protein to their minimum during this carb up, so the desire to eat can often persist once you hit those totals. But don't do it. Stay the course and commit to the numbers. Keep the carbs cleanish, and your performance and physique will reap the rewards.
So my carb up looked like this. As I mentioned before, pre-workout I had 30 grams of carb powder and 15 grams of protein in the form of collagen. Post-workout I had 165 grams of carbs in the form of sugar-free, fast-acting carb powders and 55 grams of protein powder. So from 4 p.m. to bedtime I'll eat the following in every 30-minute intervals. 100 grams of Rice Krispies and 200 mils of skim milk. 30 minutes later I'll have another 100 grams of either Rice Krispies or Cocoa Puffs and 200 mils of skim milk. 30 minutes after that, I'll have 200 grams of medium grain white rice uncooked. 30 minutes after that, another 6 rice cakes with 60 grams of raw honey. 30 minutes after that, I'll have 650 grams of sweet potato. 30 minutes after that, I'll have 100 grams of popcorn and 50 grams more of raw honey. The next day's carb up looks something like this. So the first meal of the day was 400 grams of white rice uncooked, 200 grams of Rice Krispies with 400 mils of skim milk, 200 grams of Cocoa Puffs with 400 mils of skim milk, 600 grams of sweet potato, a loaf of sourdough bread eaten with a large bowl of pumpkin soup, 250 grams dry weight of brown rice pasta with a large bottle of tomato sauce and some lean beef mince.
So that puts me around 1400 to 1500 grams of carbs, and I stop eating 24 hours after I begin. Now the great thing that I experienced was I had zero bloating and no discomfort. I didn't feel satiated exactly, but I slept like a baby on those carb up days. The science behind this setup is pretty ingenious and for me, really fun in its execution. Psychology plays a huge role in dieting, so you need to weigh up whether you're the kind of person who loves this kind of novel, day-to-day changes in the variables, tinkering with the numbers, or instead if you're someone who prefers a set it and forget it routine. Now, did I get into contest shape after 30 days? No way. But I did lose 7 or 8 kilos when I was already kind of lean, while maintaining my strength, and I felt fine all the way doing so. I think personally that my carb up numbers might have been a bit too high, or I simply required an extra few weeks to really get down to some crazy low levels. It's something I want to try again soon, using perhaps some semaglutide or tesofensine to experiment exactly how these things influence hunger and energy levels doing the same diet. So when it comes to nutrition, training and fat loss, just like I mentioned in the last video, we're all a universe unto ourselves. So results and preferences will vary. Another note on psychology is that when it comes to training, bulking, dieting, whatever, the whole entire game that we play as bodybuilders is mental. The power of belief and expectations, they are a proven influence on the results that you're going to achieve. Hard dieting is a process of self-awareness and introspection. A period of deprivation can be good for the mind, the body and the soul, and a lot of the discomfort felt and the results achieved are definitely molded by the mindset that we approach things with. I try to frame things with an open mind, trusting the process and taking things day by day and letting the outcomes work themselves out. So with anything difficult such as this, I try to gamify things in mind where possible, trying to turn the obstacles into challenges to be overcome and not excuses for throwing up my arms in despair and blaming genetics or drugs or life circumstances or others for my inability to achieve the results that I see others achieve. I'm knocking on the door of 50, but I refuse to let some kind of number be a mental disqualifier for not getting after it in the gym each day and striving to be the best shape that I can. can in my life. So I hope you found this information helpful, and if you're interested in trying this diet, I highly recommend buying Lyle's book for the full details and instructions. If some of this does feel overwhelming or you want me to expand on some of the details, please leave a comment below. I love reading everyone's comments and I try to answer them all as best as I can. And if you'd like a bit of extra accountability and guidance in getting in the shape that you want to, you can also DM me for some very reasonably priced online coaching. I'll help guide you through the process and smooth out the learning curve of all this. So please subscribe, and thanks again for watching.